Hello everybody and welcome to Kobe's Classroom, the visual guide for the Criterion dungeon Another Aloalo Island Boss 1. This is the class setup that we'll be using for this guide. We start off by pulling the Kiwakin, which opens with Lead Hook, a small tank buster. These tornadoes also spawn around the edges and will just follow along the edge. This is followed up by Sharp Strike, a very strong tank buster that also applies a dot. You should estimate this. At this time, we avoid the first tornadoes. They're not really annoying after this. Tail Screw will set the tank's HP to 1. If the dot is still on, they're dead. Yeah, it is dead shortly after this, and we pull the Snipper. I'm not going to show the tornadoes anymore, just watch out for them and move when you see the one next to you. Water 3 is a party stack. Bubble Shower is a frontal cone, immediately followed up by Crab Dribble, a backwards cone. That's all it does. Next, we pull the Ray. This does Hydro Cannon, which is a frontal line AoE. Expulsion is a point blank AoE. Electric Whirl is a donut. Finally, we pull the Monk. This does Hydro Shot 3 times, at each non-tank member, knocking them back. Watch out for the tornadoes. It also applies a dot that needs to be healed through. Then the tank gets hit by Cross Attack, a tank buster. Use some mitigation. And that's it. On to the first boss, Ketchajuk. The fight begins with Tidal Roar, a raid wide that puts death walls up around the arena. Next we get Spring Crystals, which will spawn a couple crystals around the arena. These crystals can either be vertical or horizontal and will do vertical or horizontal line AoEs. The safe spots for this mechanic can all be found using the crystal on the middle 4 tiles, so that's the only one I'll show. The safe spots are always on the diagonals directly behind the crystal and 2 tiles in front of it. If the crystal is like this, then the safe spots would be like this. Diagonals behind, 2 in front. Bubble Net will give one roll a yellow bind debuff, and the other roll a blue bubble debuff. We can pre-position melee west and ranged east. Next, we'll get either Hydro Bullet or Hydro Fall, which will apply either a spread or a stack respectively. We solve the mechanic differently based on if we get stack or spread. I'll show the spread pattern first. Each quadrant will get a green wind line with a 1 or 2 marker, which will push any bubbles inside 2 tiles when it goes off. To solve, we start with all players inside the 2 square on their side. Yellow's inside a safe spot, blue's waiting to get pushed into a safe spot. The binds and the bubbles come out, the first squares go off, the second squares go off, the bubbles are pushed, and everything resolves. Now for the stack debuff pattern. These are always placed on players of the same role. To solve, we send the yellow players to the 1 square and the blue players to the 2 square on their side, ready to be pushed. The bubbles and binds go off, the 1s go off and nothing happens, the 2s go off and everyone is stacked with their partner. Stacks resolve, the mechanic is over. The next mechanic begins with either a stack or spread, and then the other. This is the order that they'll go off in. Blowing bubbles will put these bubbles around the arena. This is essentially an Exaflare mechanic. If we have spread first, we spread in our designated quadrants in line with the sides with no bubbles. The stacks go off, and we follow the bubbles around to stack in the middle on our side. If we get stacks first, we have melee start northwest, range start southeast for the stacks. Then the DPS will follow the bubbles to spread. For the next mechanic, 1 roll will get stacks and bubbles will spawn on the west and east or north and south. The melee group will take the west or north spots, The ranged group will take the east or south spots. A second set of bubbles spawn, and the boss will cast either encroaching twin tides or receding twin tides, which tells us the order to dodge in. If we have encroaching, we need to dodge in the hitbox first and then move out. If we have receding, we dodge out and then in. The first bubbles move, the lines behind them will explode, and we dodge in at the same time. Second bubbles move, we dodge out and out of the line. The stacks go off on the second dodge. For this next mechanic, everybody gets a spread. Roar will spawn 4 adds that will face the closest player later and cleave in their direction. Spring crystals will spawn the crystals again that will leave safe spots in one of 3 patterns. Either the corners, west and east, or north and south. Bubble Net will give 2 random players the bubble debuff and the other 2 the bind debuff. It will also bubble 2 random adds. To resolve this, we need to have the bubbles behind non-bubbled adds and the binds behind bubbled adds. We have a clockwise counterclockwise priority system for this, with tank taking the first add clockwise they need from the north, then healer melee ranged. This is how the mechanic would end up resolving with this setup of debuffs and adds. However, we first need to deal with the spread debuffs. To do this, we use the waymarks. Each player will go to the waymark with the same color as the one their add is on, and stand in the corner with the safe spot. The spreads and crystals go off, then we move to our add, and everything resolves. That's the whole mechanic. It might take a few tries with different patterns. If you've done P8S before, it's basically just snakes. The last mechanic opens with, you guessed it, another stack to spread or spread to stack. This is spreads first. Angry Seas will create a line in the middle that will knock players back. Ride the knockback and spread. Then meet in the middle on your sides for the stack. If you get stacks first, I'd recommend using your knockback immune for uptime, then spreading to the corner. Spring Crystal will spawn these round ones this time, doing circular AoEs. Bubble Net will spawn a bunch of bubbles and towers. One side will have 1 tower, the other side will have 3. We have the DPS take the middle towers. The support on the 1 tower side will stand in a bubble away from the bubbled crystals. The support on the 3 tower side will take the tower near the bubbled crystals. The wind appears from the 1 tower to 3 tower side, pushing the crystals and support across. The crystals go off, then the towers. And that's the whole fight. Get another one of the first mechanic, and then another of the third mechanic. This one would be north-south, and then out-in, and then we have Enrage. If you manage to clear, congratulations. If not, you'll get it next time. You can leave a like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitch and Twitter at BigKobeLive. The Boss 2 guide will be out in 2 or 3 days, and I'll see you guys there. Peace.